We ready, y'all?
We are.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, gender nonconforming and trans deities, welcome to the Hoodoisie. I'm your co-host, Ricardo Gamboa, also known across the world as Bad Bitch University. And once again, for this lovely episode of the Hoodoisie, I'm joined by my co-host. Oh, you're muted, Jackie.
Hey everyone, I'm Jackie Serrato, editor-in-chief of the Southside Weekly.
I'm Charles Alexander Preston, professional Twitter troll, audience engagement manager for Injustice Watch. And tonight, we will be bringing in the light with a special episode, a celebration of Lori Lightfoot. Because we have so much to be grateful for, like gentrification.
Right, or like, you know, a mayor that, is going to celebrate a genocidal figure like Columbus while also doing genocide, like sending kids back to school when maybe they should keep their asses at home because they're not safe right now because there's a pandemic happening, huh?
Well, we wanted to make this celebration of Lori a party, and we decided to invite Lori's best friends to make sure that it's lit and full of love. So let's meet our guests this evening. Make sure to give them likes and hearts. First off, the Wonder Woman pushing radical change through the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacy Davis-Gates.
Nice, let's give it up for Stacy.
We have abolitionist co-founder of the Let Us Breathe Collective and award-winning poet and playwright, Kristiana Rae Colón.
Hey, yeah. We also have an organizer with Black Lives Matter Chicago, You Medics, and Stop Southside Together organizing for power, the one, the only, Amika Tendaji.
Activist, former mayoral candidate in economics, international relations, and policy consultant, Amara Enyia.
Let's give it up for Amara.
We have Chicago's progressive 25th Ward Alderman, Byron Sigcho.
Yep, people are always like, Ricardo, how are you so brilliant? And I'm like, well, I just look to this next guest and see what they're saying about things to educate myself. They are author, artist, educator, and the writer behind the blog, Radical Faggot. Let's give it up for Benji Hart.
Also, staff writer of the Chicago Reader, journalist Maya Dukmasova.
Hey.
Let me not, don't judge my Spanish. Next one. I got professor, binational activist, and organizer with Little Villages El Foro del Pueblo, Laura Ramírez.
Hey, he hit the R on the photo. That's good.
I'll be rolling. I got it.
Also, unfortunately, we had Gina Ramírez slated for this evening. Her son had a medical emergency. She had to take him to the ER. So let's send them some healing energies. But we are super excited to have on the show tonight a member of the Neighbors for Environmental Justice. Let's give it up for Billy Drew.
Activist with Asada's Daughters and the Black Abolitionist Network, Nisa Perez.
Hey, let's give it up for Nisa. And finally, joining us tonight is the creator of the infamous Scooby meme that reminded everyone Lightfoot is actually a cop. Let's give it up for Fernando Delgado. And so just for all of you at home know, throughout the night, Fernando will be doing live illustrations inspired by our show. These will be made for you to share on social media and will also be shared live by our social media brigade that you'll learn about later. So obviously this show is different than other episodes. And we're gonna break down the structure for you right now. Our guests are everyone that you see here that we just introduced. They're going to be alternating between group conversations and competitive games.
So our homie Yao will bring up this board of conversation categories. I'm gonna read this slow. One of our guests will be selected at random to select a category. Then we'll read the conversation starter for the essay category, and guests have 7 minutes to discuss it. So whatever topic they choose, they have 7 minutes to discuss it. And we will try to get through all these categories within 90 minutes of the show. And if we don't, we just don't.
In between conversations, 2 or 3 guests will be selected at random to square off in various games. Your reactions and the co-host will determine the winners.
Now,
but right now,
ahead,
as we speak and you watch, we have dozens upon dozens of Chicagoans who make up our Bring in the Light social media brigade. Give a round of applause for them because they are watching, and every 2 to 3 minutes, they are sending off tweets, Facebook posts, all types of shit that inform the public about the truth of Lori Lightfoot.
Exactly. And so if you are at home right now and you think about how to get involved, our social media, our Bring in the Light brigade, they're going to be sharing these tweets and posts with the hashtag Bring in the Light and hashtag Lori Lightfoot, L-I-E foot. They are ready for change, those that are doing this at home. And if you are too, feel free to search those hashtags and retweet and reshare the knowledge they're dropping, because an educated public is a dangerous one, an effective one, and it's the one that we need right now. It's an easy thing you can do at home while you're watching the show to help get Chicago right and bring in the light. And by bring in the light, we mean the truth. All right, so let's get started. In this hat that is not a fedora, I have the names of all of our guests this evening. I'm going to go ahead and draw a name of a guest. So the first person up is Benji Hart. So now Benji will get to look at this conversation board, this Jeopardy board. Let's bring it up, y'all. And Benji will get to select which category we are going to talk about first.
All right, here we go. I would like Bring in the Cop, please.
Nice. So once that happens, we will go ahead and read the conversation starter. Started as a police board president and now she's here. Lightfoot supports the construction of cop academies and recently supported the mass arrest of teens on drug corners. How much of a cop is Mayor Lori really? Now, once you read the conversation started just like that, Yao will put up a timer for 7 minutes, like he'll do right now. And our guests now have 7 minutes to let the public know and talk amongst each other everything we need to know about how much of a cop is our Mayor Lori. Let's start the timer and let's reveal. Let's get us in gallery view, Yao. All right, go. So Benji, you asked the question. How about you start us off?
I mean, how much of a cop is Lori Lightfoot? The answer to that question is how much of a cop can anyone be? If there's a scale, like Lori Lightfoot is at the top of the scale. Maybe like Kamala Harris might be up there with her, but she's at the top of the scale. And I think, you know, we joke about folks being cops, like Kamala Harris, like Lori Lightfoot, but I think it's actually really important to acknowledge people's actual, not just connection to, but investment in the carceral state, and commitment to keeping it going. And I think this is like we're in a moment where we can actually talk about this in a new way, because we're in a moment of mass upheaval against the police and prison system in a way that's more widespread than most of us have ever seen, and acknowledging that, like, yes, Black women can participate in and support and push the carceral state. Queer people can be a part of, reinforce the carceral state. And those identities don't make you beyond critique and beyond protest. And I think folks who have been afraid to acknowledge that are coming around in a new way right now that I'm excited about.
Who else wants to chime on in?
I was thinking that she is such a cop that she's willing to poison the brown and Black populations of Little Village and North Lawndale by allowing the cop, the Chicago Police Board is the same guy as the Hilco Corporation, the CEO of the Hilco Corporation. And so we're seeing now, right, that it's not just about loving the cops, it's about putting cops in situations of power in which now they're literally choosing to poison a whole community without absolutely any sort of oversight, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's not just about having the mentality of a cop, it's having the mentality of a killer, right? You're like willing to poison people in the middle of a pandemic, and then realizing that the person you're letting do this is your friend, right? So I think that you can't get more of a cop than getting your friend to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks that, like, in 2015, when Lori Lightfoot was chairing the police board meetings She was incredibly dismissive, rude, condescending, mocking to the grieving families of people who have been killed by the police. And month after month, as activists flooded those police board meetings, demanding the firing of Dante Servin for murdering Rekia Boyd, Lori Lightfoot was extremely disrespectful to Rekia's grieving family and the families of other victims of police violence. And so that's the Lori Lightfoot that I knew, and I was shocked to see that she was running on a progressive platform. It's like the most egregious hypocrisy and lie, and that like identity politics has continued to obscure how much of an agent of policing and oppression and status quo and dominant power structure she is really ridiculous to me. So, you know, I'm always remembering 2015 police board Lori whenever I am seeing her acting in these current oppressive ways.
Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead, Amara.
I want to underscore what Benji said about the identity and getting a pass because of your identity. I think this is a dynamic that played out significantly in the last election in particular, where you do have folks who can check boxes, and oftentimes representation or your skin color or your gender identity or what have you is used to check boxes, so we get a lot of symbolism and no substance. And I think that's unique also when we're talking about police, because we still have a situation where, for example, those who consider themselves white liberals or white progressives might say Black Lives Matter, but they still will call the police on you. And I think that's played out in this election in the sense that you're comfortable because you can check those superficial boxes while also voting for someone that will answer the call when you call the police on Black people or Black and brown folks. So this really, who she is, I think, has exposed a lot, not just about her track record or lack thereof on progressive issues, but also the ways in which white Chicagoans in particular have been complicit in perpetuating the symbolism over the substance, which is why so much in Chicago has not changed over decades.
All right, cool. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold this up this evening. I'm gonna be double fisting with my wine and my mic. It's all good, it's a party. So we're celebrating.
Phallic mic.
Right, it's a very phallic mic. It's because I'm queer. I'm into it. I'm like queer as in defund the police, not queer as in let me make campaign promises that I do not keep about the welfare of people. Okay, so we're gonna move forward, and throughout the evening, this is the part where we're gonna go ahead and introduce a game. Throughout the evening, our guests will be asked to square off in games. We pre-selected the guests at random before the show began. And so the first contestants that we have up are Amika Tendaji and Stacy Davis-Gates. Amika and Stacy will be playing the first game, which is Bring in the Blank. You found them, Yao?
Still, yeah. Give me a second, Amika.
So Amika and Stacy are going to be playing Bring in the Blank. This is a fill in the blank game. Amika and Stacy will face off, and they will fill in the blank of a sentence that we provide. Audience reaction and us co-hosts will determine who is the winner of the game. There'll be 3 rounds, and if time permits, we'll try and sneak in 2 more. So the first one is if Lori Lightfoot's campaign slogan was Bring in the Light, what should her slogan have been? What her slogan should have been was... you could go first.
Bringing the lies.
Say it one more time.
Bringing the lies. That's what
Bringing the lies. Nice. Stacy, what should Lori's slogan have been?
That was mine. That was so easy. Bringing the strike.
Bringing the strike. Nice. All right. Round 2. Lori Lightfoot's campaign team, like communication strategist Joanna Klonsky, falsely branded Lightfoot as a progressive for her campaign. If Joanna was going to lie to Chicago and the rest of the Lightfoot campaign team, they just should have said blank. Amika, you start us off again.
No, white, a black Donald Trump, but close.
Stacy?
They should have just said, we want the 5th floor and the power with it. Damn the progressive vision of Chicago.
Damn.
That was a little long, but whatever.
Round 3. Let's talk fashion. Lori Lightfoot made headlines when she donned a fedora. Instead of a fedora, Mayor Lightfoot should wear. Stacy, you start us off for this one.
I think a fedora is appropriate.
Amika.
Sith Lord cape.
Just say it one more time.
A Sith Lord cape with the hood.
Nice. Cool. We're gonna sneak in one more round. If Lightfoot was a rapper, her MC name would be. Amika, hit us up.
Delight.
Nice. Stacy.
MC Cop.
MC Cop. Nice. Let's give it up for our contestants, Stacy Davis-Gates and Amika Tendaji for bringing the blank. I don't know, Charles, Jackie, what do you all think? I feel like it's like a solid tie. What do you think? We're going to declare them both winners. I'm going to declare them both winners. Let's give it up for Stacy and Amika. Nice. And let's get on to our next conversation.
So the next game is called Who Said It?
Oh, wait, no, Jax. We're going to do another conversation round. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and draw the name. And actually, Stacy Davis-Gates is next up. Let's bring up the board. In early May of the pandemic, our great Mayor Lightfoot went to the West Side to chastise Black youth on a playground for gathering, but failed to make an appearance in Wrigleyville or the 606 Trail to tell white Chicagoans to stay home. What other examples of anti-Blackness have we seen from our mayor? Stacy, you asked it. We're going to get 7 minutes on the clock, and you kick off the conversation.
Actually, I like that example. I mean, I think, let's be real. That example to me broke my heart, right? You are on the west side of Chicago. There are a group of kids there. From what the camera captured, they were social distancing. And I'll be 100% honest with you. This pandemic has turned everyone's life upside down. And what I saw was an absence of value and care at the approach. Look, I know what it means to be in a high school with Black students, with brown students, with students who come from, environments that have not been so well-resourced or caring, what have you. And guess what you say first? Hello, how are you doing? How's your family doing? My name is. And that moment impacted me greatly because when we talk about this city and who this city has to work for, how we have to engage with the people of the city, that example showed me a few things. One, the availability of ridicule for Black children and how widely accepted that it is, that is. Not just by white folks, but by Black folks too, right? You can put a Black boy in his place and not have any type of accountability for the humiliation, for the fear, for the uncomfortableness that you place there. And then to levy on top of a child the responsibility of their loved one's life because they were outside, just like all of white Chicago was outside that same day. It was a beautiful day. It was a nice day. And people go outside. And if I'm not mistaken, our park space is so prominent in Chicago because we live so closely together. We live in dwellings that are not just single family homes. And so our park space, our playgrounds give us the opportunity to, quite frankly, social distance. And so we are not giving Black people, and it starts with Black kids, the space to be human, the space to absorb this pandemic, the upside down nature of the world we're living in right now. And that hurt. Like, it hurt on a level because she won't see my son differently than she saw those kids, right? And the world doesn't either. Which also goes back to this whole conversation about CPD and CPS and why it is okay to put cops in schools, but to not have nurses in schools. Why it was okay for the young child at Marshall High School to be dragged down the steps, to be tased, in a school that doesn't have a librarian, doesn't have a full-time social worker, doesn't have a nurse. It showed the devalue, the lack of value we have for Black children in this city. And when you see it at the top level, then why would you be surprised when you see it at any other level?
This is also the mayor that closed the grab-and-go sites for meals in response to the protest after the George Floyd video. So like on top of all of the other insults to punish Black and brown children across the city for a night of strategic property destruction is absolutely disgusting and despicable.
I think we definitely need to talk about the attack on protesters as anti-Blackness. I think we need to talk about the curfew itself as anti-Blackness. I think we need to talk about virtually all arrests being made for social distancing violations and for breaking of the curfew being on the South and West sides as anti-Blackness. And I also want to throw up what Kelly Hayes pointed out, that keeping beaches closed while forcing restaurants and bars to reopen is anti-Blackness. And actually forcing people into spaces that we know the virus spreads in, while closing spaces where actually chances of catching COVID are very low. But making sure that the free spaces and the public spaces are closed while the private money-making spaces remain open is also certainly classism, but anti-Blackness specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I also think we could just even say the act of raising the bridges, right? Yep. And cutting off the CTA system. Like this was a moment of Black rage that is actually, you know, a culmination of centuries of Black rage, and that we've seen it before. And so when Black people, you know, decide that, hey, it's enough, like it's enough of police killing us with impunity, and kind of storm somewhere like downtown Chicago, you know, the idea that, and rightfully attack, rightfully let their rage be known, and, you know, and so what, right? If something like Gucci with their purses or whatever that are made from sweatshop labor, child labor, right? Any of those chains downtown that relies on kind of third world labor or global South labor, you know, we could say that stuff gets messed up when there's like this kind of incessant violence happening. And so even like raising those bridges and cutting off the CTA was to protect, you know, corporations, was to protect the wealthier and whiter downtown and north side, while redirecting and siloing Black rage, you know, in their own, you know, in their own communities, right? And it was so violent, and one of the most anti-Black displays of political leadership that I think we saw during the riots by mayors. Anyone else? We got 34 seconds.
I just wanted to underscore that the use of public services, including public transportation, and actually weaponizing them against communities, particularly Black communities or Black and brown communities for that matter. So when you mentioned lifting of bridges, also cutting off transportation that affects not just those who may be engaged in civil disobedience or civil unrest, but also those who have to go to work, those who still have to get to their jobs. We also know that the majority of jobs that were created in the last several years have been downtown. Those essential workers, a lot of them are traveling from the far southwest side, the southeast side, the west side, going toward downtown. And when you cut off public transportation, you're essentially cutting them off from their livelihood. So talking about the weaponization of public services, which our tax dollars pay for against communities, that's a big part of this.
Nice. All right, we're gonna go ahead. We have time for, we're gonna do another conversation. Here is my not fedora, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull out. Amika, you get to pick the next category. Let's bring up the category board. Yeah. All right, here we go, Amika. You go ahead and pick which one you wanna see next. And you're on mute, Amika.
The one right above you gotta go.
All right, that is bring in the memes. So memes of Lightfoot standing by a police barricade have gone viral with the image of tough love to enforce stay-at-home orders. But Chicago critics like activist organizer Kelly Hayes assert these memes endear us to Lightfoot while detracting from her violent administration during and before the pandemic. What role has public image played in Lightfoot's governance? All right, Mika, you can start us off and take it away.
Particularly nationally, is very important at a media, a progressive darling, right? And so we see her on CNN and MSNBC, and this is, you know, the gay Black Jesus Chicago. What, you know, and her ability to use progressive or even organizing talking points, right, and just lie on them, right? So we're under a consent decree. We're taking that very seriously. That consent decree was fought for by organizations, the Campbell plaintiffs, BLM Chicago. It's not being taken seriously, and we know that it's not too much when it happens anyway, right? But the kind of like bold-faced lying that she does is, I don't know, unseen by me for life. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because in terms of Chicago political tradition, Lori Lightfoot doesn't really fit in neither with the sort of Mayor Daley style, like patronage politics, people lacking charisma but having a lot of power because of their connections in the city, nor is she like a very charismatic and like gifted retail politician in the sort of vein of Harold Washington or, I don't know, Rod Blagojevich or whatever, these like local figures who were tremendously popular in part because of how they kind of wielded their personality. And so I think in today's political environment and media environment, it's basically possible for a person like Lori Lightfoot with not like a lot of kind of political skills and instincts. I wouldn't say she's like someone who would be, I don't know, I feel like she's kind of a personality-wise, she doesn't really fit into the traditional Chicago political landscape, but she's able to succeed because of this very successful kind of PR management that's possible because of the internet. And I mean, I just had a couple of weeks ago, there was like a whole long interview with her in the New York Times Magazine, right, which was like, again, yeah, it's like these national media appearances in which she appears to be this like progressive leader and this like kind of change candidate, but there's, I mean, she essentially says a whole lot of nothing, and not like it was any different under Rahm, but I do think that the kind of memeing and the way that the internet has been deployed to boost her personality, it's really easy to just kind of create the impression that she is actively doing things, that she's got this like kind of like no bullshit personality, but in fact, like I think there's really she's not like very politically skilled, and I don't know, she doesn't have like a great track record yet of like successfully getting a lot of things accomplished.
Stacy's like, she didn't win that strike. I know that. Go ahead, Stacy.
Here's the thing, though, that I think is important about what Maya just like provided, and Amika too, to be honest with you, is that there is a benefit to the work that all of the squares on this screen provided, right? There has been a shift leftward in Chicago. The consciousness of many Chicagoans have been shifted by grassroots organizations, by the leftward move of, some of our unions in the city, that there's been this sustained presence to lift up the needs of marginalized communities, intentional disinvestment over time. And then you have someone who has taken that language, appropriated it, and embodies Black, embodies female, embodies queer, and then it's okay. Don't forget, like, we're also in a time period where Black women are finally getting their just due, if not but for just a face or a voice, not depth, not critical, not a critique of what we say, how we say it, and then what we do, but because you trust Black women. So you see the convergence of identity politics, the convergence of all of the work that people in this Zoom room have put forth. And then you had the perfect storm of Ed Burke, in I would say the independent expenditure that the Tribune ran, on the front page nearly every day. And so you get this benefit. And that's why I think the response from the left, especially grassroots organizations, is so visceral in this moment. Because you know how damn hard it is to raise your voice, to organize people to think more of their space, to get them to believe in a vision that's different. And then you have someone who rides through, extracts that language, appropriates your posture and your stance, and then doesn't provide any type of material benefit to the communities on whose back she rode to victory on. You know, that's insulting, and it's disappointing, and it's hurtful, and it also devalues type of work and the platform and the organizing that we've done over time.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is like some of the stuff that Lightfoot used to kind of like call out, right? Like even like talking about like even her calling out Burke, right? Which a big thing that, you know, we know made headlines was Burke's relationship with Trump. And then not even a week into office, she was taking selfies with Ivanka Trump and hosting her, at City Hall. And it's not a coincidence, even when we think about the public image, that she saw and was able to witness the kind of encouragement that someone like J.B. Pritzker was getting for standing up to Trump. And in this moment of her constantly failing in her responses to the pandemic, all of a sudden now is kind of trying to leverage this performance of calling out Trump. And it just seems, I think for any critical viewer as contrived as what it is. We only have 46 more seconds. Does anyone want to take them away? Laura, go ahead.
Hi. So one of the things that I wanted to say was how she reminds me of the Latin American dictators, right? That present this facade of benign, like generosity, and they do all these things to appear to be good and safe, but behind they're actually Machiavellian and they're violent, right? To an extent that I think when you're talking about making her a benign face, you're actually allowing for that facade to really allow for much more evil things to happen underneath, much more darker things to happen, right? So, and I think this has already happened in Latin America, in El Salvador, in Mexico, right? With a lot of folks who appear to be like benign rulers, but they actually ended up disappearing lots of people and being incredibly violent in the dark. So I think that's what's incredibly worrisome about her tactics.
Nice. We are at time. All right, we're going to join into our second game. Jackie, I'll let you take it away for our next game. Who's playing?
Sure. So for the next game, we're going to call up Byron, Sigcho López, and Maya Dukmasova. And the name of this game is called Who Said It? Lori or Trump?
Let's give Ram. Let's give Yao. I'm sorry, Yao. I know you are not Ram. Let's give Yao a second. Let's give Yao a second to bring up Maya and Byron on the screen. There we go. Okay, go ahead, Jackie. Take it away.
So during this game, I will be reading a statement quote, and these are verbatim. We will switch between both of you, right? And each of you will have an opportunity to guess who said it, Lori or Trump. The person with the most points at the end of the 5 rounds wins this particular game. Okay, so round 1. The quote is, "Don't make us treat you like a criminal." Who said it?
Lori.
Yeah. It was Lightfoot, yeah, Lori Lightfoot. So in May, the mayor gave Black teens on the playground a hard time, like we already mentioned, as well as young partygoers. And recently, she said that police would go after kids standing on drug corners. So this appears to be her MO, definitely. So for round 2, the quote is, "I called the governor and the National Guard went in, and one night it was over." Who said it?
Trump.
Lori.
Trump said it. So these remarks were in reference to the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protest taking place in Minneapolis. So Maya, you won this round. So round 3. The quote is, "I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves and suggest to the public that there's a reason for them to be fearful. We need people to continue to go about their daily lives." Who said it?
Lori.
Yeah. So in February, Lori refused to close Chicago public schools despite the ask of the Chicago Teachers Union, who feared for the safety of students and teachers during the pandemic. Okay, round 4. The quote says, I thought it was a terrible situation, but you can't resist the police officer. If you have a disagreement, you have to take it up after the fact. Who said it?
Trump.
Yeah, Trump said it. This is how Trump described the murder of Rayshard Brooks in Georgia last month, placing the fault on the victim of police brutality. And the last round, the quote says, Columbus Day is an issue of great discussion, but I think that we can use this moment as an opportunity to not try to erase history, but to embrace it. Who said it?
Lori.
Yeah. So Lightfoot made this statement against the taking down of racist statues commemorating genocide and colonialism. She also opposed Juneteenth as a Chicago holiday. So that wraps up this game, and it seems like Maya won by 1 point. Yay.
Okay, so Ricky is going to pick a name from the hat.
We got Laura.
Okay, Laura, pick a category, one that hasn't already been chosen.
Well, you know I'm blind, so can you read a couple of them for me?
Yeah, we got, we have Bring in the Kids, Bring in the Queer Progressive, Bring in the Recovery, Bring in the Dictator, Bring in the Pollution, Bring in the Displacer left on the board.
Well, I'll definitely say Bring in the Pollution.
Nice, let's do
and
it.
Then I'll start.
Wait. We got to get the conversation started, miss.
Oh,
Let me provide the context. Right now.
So Mayor go ahead, Charles. You want to read this one?
Yeah. Mayor Lori Lightfoot and city departments permitted the disastrous demolition of a century-old coal plant that engulfed an immigrant community in toxic dust. Now, a metal shredder is planning to move from the wealthy white Lincoln Park to the working class southeast side that is primarily black and brown. Our question is, how is Lightfoot perpetuating environmental racism in a crisis?
So I'll just tell you a quick story. I live in Little Village, and we have a high smoke alert because they are demolishing the Hilco power plant, even though she made a 6-month moratorium promise after the April 11th demolition. She doesn't give any crap about it. So she decided that she was going to continue to demolish this in the middle of still a pandemic in over 90-degree weather. We got these notices, right, saying you can't go outside in the neighborhood, you cannot do any physical exercise, you cannot open your windows, and you cannot have AC. You're talking about a community that has over 70,000 people who are in literally over 100-degree weather, living in very tight conditions. And these are the 5 things we cannot do. And on top of that, we still can't go to the lake because they rather open bars than lakes, as Benji had mentioned earlier. So literally, we are sitting there deciding whether to suffocate to death, boil ourselves up, or die from the particulate that these demolitions are still occurring in our neighborhoods. And these are the choices that we make as Chicagoans every day. So yeah, that's the kind of mayor we have.
Well, anyone else want to chime on in?
Illy.
Yeah, I'll chime in right too, since we're on the topic of pollution. Down on the southwest side of McKinley Park, we had an asphalt facility that opened up, no questions asked. The sole purpose of this plant is to get city contracts. Who's the owner of this plant? It's Michael Taden Jr. And his family, Michael Taden, who was the kingpin of the hired truck scandal, right? And so Mayor Lightfoot is talking about bringing the light, talking about ending corruption, but she's taking political contributions from a family that has stole millions of dollars. We're talking $40,000 or $40 million of taxpayer money for doing nothing, the hired truck scandal, right? This guy was Mayor Daley's best friend. And so we have pollution that is being unchecked. We have polluters moving from the north side to the south side, like Gina, one of my colleagues and another environmental justice activist who couldn't be here. They're fighting General Iron, who's opening up in a community that's been suffering from decades of legacy pollution from the steel industry, or pet coke, which is a byproduct of petroleum production that's just polluting their community. In fact, they found out that a Little League baseball field needs to be remediated because they found high levels of arsenic and lead in them. And this is something that has happened before, right? And so where is the justice? Where is the accountability? And why is Lightfoot aligning herself with the old political establishment and cronyism?
Yeah, I can chime in very quick in terms. One of the things that was obvious and very clear in this case was that it was really corporations. In this case, the Target Corporation that is really behind. All this huge deal about rushing a project that in any kind of quote unquote progressive environment, you will never allow to have such an implosion in the middle of a pandemic. But I think it's very clear, the evidence is very clear that, when a Target Corporation, where the corporations want something from this administration, they're gonna get it, even though there may be lives in the line. When we talk about environmental racism, right? What happened with the Department of the Environment? A promise that Mayor Lightfoot made to bring it back. We're still waiting for that. Why small businesses continue to wait for relief? In the meantime, Target Corporation not only is getting a red carpet treatment, getting subsidies from the government, but even allowed to do an implosion in the middle of a pandemic. So when we talk about the PR campaign that the mayor continues to have, let's see who pays for this PR campaign. What pays to clean her image? What pays to make her look like a progressive? Are these corporations? World Chicago, Ken Griffin, the richest man in Illinois, who is also known to have deals also when it comes to pollutants and so on. So again, when it comes to corporations, there's red carpet treatment. Where is the relief for people? Where is the support for small businesses, for residents who cannot pay rent, for people who cannot pay their mortgage? That's what we're going to talk about. So the memes are all cute, right? But those memes are paid, and this image of little about progressive comes from corporations and billionaires who are paying for the pollution in our communities.
Anyone else want to chime on in? We got 1 minute on the clock still. Anyone? I mean, I just
said the fact that there is more cops than trees in my neighborhood is environmental racism.
Yeah, I mean, I think the environmental department is a really good kind of example, right? Of kind of like, again, like this was Lightfoot who campaigned on a progressive platform. We know that Rahm cut the environmental department in 2012, right? Lightfoot made a promise on her progressive campaign platform that she was going to bring it back. She didn't. Instead, they're hiring an environmental sustainability officer, kind of, which is also what Rahm did, that will make $150,000, right? So the kind of and the thing is, like I think when we think about what is the scope of the environment in Chicago, yes, it does include like gentrification. It does include blowing up, allowing corporations to blow up something like the Crawford plant, but it also includes something like the water, right? That is here kind of in Lake Michigan, that's becoming a valuable resource as water scarcity already affects 2/3 of the planet, right? And yet something like Nestle gets to pump water out of, pays almost nothing to be able to pump water out of the Great Lakes and our Lake Michigan, and then go ahead and sell it back to us at over a 400% markup, right? So a progressive mayor would have actually decided how something like the water, which is the commons, could actually be further and actually be used towards siphoning resources, back towards routing resources back into our city. And I think it's just kind of, again, right, this thing in which, not even just about broken promises, but about a broken frame of consciousness that that actually views our environment, that actually views our people as a means to extract from constantly, and then to give it away, but only to corporations, only to cops, right? So even the $800 budget hole that is one of the justifications she has for not actually bringing back the environmental department. I know that time ran out, but I want to get this shit out because I'm pissed now. But like,
say it, preach on.
But even that $800 million budget hole, that can easily right? Even police pensions, the over $700 million that goes into that, that's gone into that this year could cover that, right? And I'm sorry, like when cops are killing people and the federal government deems them as corrupt, I think we should give our money to something like the environment and award them. Someone like Dante Servin gets to collect the fucking pension, right? So cool. Let's squeeze in. Are we down for one more conversation right now before we get to our next game? Cool. I'm gonna draw a name from the hat. And we got Maya. Maya, your turn to pick a category. Let's go. Let's bring the board back up, y'all. All right.
Okay. Let's do Bring in the Kids.
Bring in the Kids. You want to read it, Charles?
Youth activists have taken to the streets and organized their asses off in an attempt to get cops out of schools and stop the building of the West Side Cop Academy. Lightfoot was also very resistant to CTU's demands for students for the strike. Does Lori love the kids? If she doesn't, will she ever?
Nice. All right, Maya, you pick this one. You start off the conversation.
Well, I can't speak about her personal love for her personal kid or any kids that might be in her family or whatever. I'm sure she's a sweet enough relative to have. But I think as far as the respect for youth activism in the city and youth organizing, I don't see this mayor being any better than any of her predecessors. I think that some of the most important organizing, and what I see is that some of the most important and visionary organizing happening in this city is youth-led. And I feel like the mayor tends to dismiss it by saying that it's fringe, that it's, hyperbolic, that it's not representative of the overall views of young people or Chicagoans in general. I think most recently where this came to a head was around this cops and schools issue, where you have like a big movement led by young people against this program. And then you have a school board meeting at which the CPS leadership, which is all mayorally appointed, is presenting polling data that supposedly represents views of children. And then you start kind of picking at how the survey was conducted and, who are these, can they guarantee that these were actually youth responses? And suddenly it's like, it's not at all clear whether the opinions they're claiming is representative of the youth are actually representative of the youth. Meanwhile, the kids that are on the street, the kids that are organizing things, are saying something completely different from what the district is representing. So I think that this mayor is actually like very attached to a sense of authority. It's very important to her to be taken seriously and to be perceived as an authority. And I feel like fundamentally, if that's like something that really drives and moves you, you can't be about the kids, because that's like it's a structure of understanding yourself and power that's like fundamentally anti-youth.
Right,
So
it's kind of like
how I see it.
Yeah, it's rooted like in a form of paternalism, actually, that she kind of enacts that is also kind of like entangled with a certain type of performance of authoritarianism as well, and that type of like
I mean, as far as authoritarianism goes, the city has seen much worse, I think. But in general, I don't think that this mayor is particularly respectful of youth and what the youth want and how they express themselves.
Anyone else?
Let's hear from the youth.
Nisa, I saw Nisa unmute that shit real quick.
I just want to say that I think, in addition to the fact that, you're not listening to youth, you're not listening to a national call, that nationally across the world, people are calling for police to be removed as a system that's accountability, as a system to change things in the world. Like, that's a call for that to be removed as a system. So not just in schools, but just as an accountability system, people are calling for it to be eliminated, which would mean that logically, that would mean that, of course, we want it away from our children. Of course, we want police to away from our children out of our schools, but we want our children to be learning and growing. We wouldn't want them to be in a vulnerable position when we see cops that are literally having young Black and brown folks on the street, pulling them, snatching them. Like, why would we want those same people in our schools where our kids are? Not only that, we don't know which one of them are there. We don't know if it's the same guy that just pulled him off the street. We don't know any of that they're in our schools.
Nice.
And
Anyone
I
else?
just think, going off of like past examples of like her chastising the black kids off on the playground proves that like she has no like clear like regard for like the youth and their wishes. Like she didn't even sit like Stacy was talking about earlier. She didn't even have like any type of care in approaching these children. And we can also talk about the drug corners, which they kind of alluded to, like it being more like youth involved. And the way we're going to protect these youth is actually by locking them up during the pandemic. Like, that's fucking crazy to me. And then also, like, whenever she does a public appearance or speaks to Chicago or whatever, she's not really speaking to the youth. She's not including the youth in whatever the fuck she's talking about. Like, I haven't heard a press conference about juvenile detention during COVID. Haven't heard of it. But as a mayor, that is your responsibility if you do care about, the kids. So I think she don't care about it.
Stacey, go ahead, take it.
Well, I think that's something that's very important is that this is not just isolated here in Chicago. This is global, right? And I'm gonna keep it 100. The only reason why I wanted to be a teacher was to get young people like Nisa. Folks who are clear about owning their space, about being self-determined, about making sure that it's about their community. I grew up in the 90s. It was all about getting yours and getting out. It wasn't about staying in, building up, and building community. That wasn't our message. It was about materialism, hyper-materialism, right?
Right.
That being said, we are on the precipice of a shift in Chicago. Whether the fifth floor understands it or not, it doesn't stop for anyone, right? And the same youth who told us, the same young people, the same Black organizers, the same Black leaders who were clear about identifying her when she was running for mayor are the same ones who are now clear about what is happening in their community. Look, that lack of outrage about locking up Black kids on corners is what we need to concentrate on. Like we can do Lori Lightfoot all day. What I want us to understand is that we also got to knock on some doors and talk to people about and ask them, why is it okay to target Black children? Why is it okay to berate Black children on corners? And have them be accountable for making it okay to do. You can do that. We have to figure out we don't have to figure it out. We have to demand value for Black children. And for me, in this moment as a Black mother, that supersedes anything else. Is that we have created a world where it is okay to berate them, to target them, to imprison them in the middle of a COVID, and then to send them back to schools that they know are not prepared or safe for their arrival. That's a problem. And that is a problem that Chicago is going to have to come to terms with before September.
Yeah. Who else wants to time on it?
Yeah, I want to say, yes. First of all, I have a young person that I love very much who's out there in front of Lightfoot's house calling for CPD at a CPS, right? And looking up at the same time, also, which was far more occupied than Ramírez did, right? That's your progressive darling, right? Blocks and blocks and blocks. Like, you ain't getting to her house, right? Ron will let you come past. Calling officers complaints, list of complaints, so then they would be told to get off the line, right? Who has said after she's gotten her ass beat by the police under this mayor's curfew bullshit, I will never trust any adult that believes in calling the police on young people. I can never enter a space that believes in calling the police on young people. This is, criminalization of Black youth is like, I don't know. I mean, she's maybe not the devil of it, but she's certainly like the Beyonce of it. I mean, to disrespect Beyonce, but like, yeah, she's a boss at criminalizing Black youth.
I wanted to, I think it's important for us to highlight what the youth represent. So the youth is not some generic group. They represent a departure from the status quo. They represent vision. They represent the capacity to imagine something that is different from what we currently experience. That's part of the value that when we say the youth, the young people, it's not just because of their age, it's because they have not bought into the systems as they are. That's the value of having them engaged, and that's the value of making sure that they are at the forefront of all of the pushes that we're making across policy areas. So when you don't listen to or engage the youth in an authentic way, it means you're not interested in departing from the status quo. It means that you are vested in protecting the systems as they are. And that is really what we're seeing play out. So a lot of these folks will tell you, we tried to tell y'all, I mean, the hashtag should be told y'all, like, because the vision, and because there are some older folks too who have that vision, that capacity to imagine, and that's what's going to change things. Because we also have to be very clear that there are some young folks who have bought into the system as well. So I want to make sure that we can draw those distinctions so that we can have clarity about what it's going to take to change things in the city. The other thing that I think is important is that folks need to know who their allies are. Because I can recall very clearly so-called allies who were writing columns, apologetics for the current mayor and her background or lack thereof on any of the issues that we're talking about. I can name organizations, people who head up organizations in the city, who said that these young people were overreacting. I have screenshots, because I keep receipts of them saying they're overreacting, they need to calm down, they're doing too much. Some of the folks that will call you allies, if nothing else over the last year, I hope that people's eyes have been opened. Because everyone who says, oh, we can check those two boxes, everyone who calls themselves an ally, many of those folks revealed precisely who they are in the election cycle, but also we're able to see them more clearly by their complicity and by their silence in this moment. So I hope that our eyes are open.
I'm gonna be a little bit bogus and jumps that, like, I don't want to indulge in that framework speaks a little bit to, like, I couldn't get my grandmother, I couldn't get my friends, I couldn't get a lot of people that I love, I couldn't get my aunties, right? And we're shifting, and I want to celebrate, like, the shifting, right? And I'm not fighting no Black people in this moment. I will ignore the fuck out you, but I'm not fighting people, I'm not broadcasting stuff, And we've also seen shifts in Latinx anti-Blackness in this community. My friends who knew their cousins and their community was anti-Black as hell, right? Was like, okay, sorry about all that, but now we finna show up, right? And so the, like, who didn't do before, who's not really, like, we're this is a moment to build bridges. We really are all we got, and we are facing down a lot.
I've keep in mind that, like, we're all, like, living under a system that, and in some instances we're all gonna get entangled in. Like, we're not all liberated all the time, we're not all free all the time. Like, it's gonna happen, but that we're here to work with each other and that we're here to build, because the things that we need, the resources that we need, we're lacking. So of course we're gonna act as people that are lacking in resources that they deserve and should have. But it's important that we always stay and work with each other and know that, like, you my brother, you my sister, we gonna make it. Like, this is gonna happen.
Well, you all are better than me, because I'm still thinking, like, someone like Chuy Garcia is a punk for endorsing Lightfoot. I'm still thinking Beto Aguayo is a punk for endorsing Lightfoot. I'm still thinking, right, Mike Rodriguez is a punk for not listening.
It's just that they're not our enemies. That, like, the mayor as a point is somebody that we're always going to have to fight against. That all that we can do is try and win the points with them that we can. But that no politician will ever be our ally. No politician will ever help us get where we want to be as a people. Like, we just have to work with that in terms of, oh, well, we're trying to get to this goal, so let's try and get to this goal with this person. But not that any politician will ally themselves to somehow, like, build our movement. Like, we can't rely on that.
True. Nisa organizing on this club.
Y'all better drop some likes in them comic sessions. Support the youth.
Nice. We were way over time on this one, so I'm going to keep it moving to our next game. Charles, how about you take it away for our next game? I think it's
my game. I want to get to my game. So, Amara and Benji are stage for this game. And it's an easy game. So it's basically who did it, Lori or wrong. So we dug up the receipts. Actions speak louder than words. Here we'll see who did it, and you will guess Lori or wrong. So I'll just call you all up. I'm gonna read the prompt. You answer Lori or wrong. Simple. Oh, question 1. Who did it? While campaigning, this mayor suggested converting closed schools into mini police academies.
Lori.
Our guests are correct. From Lori Lightfoot. We have 38 schools that are vacant from school closing, some of which can be repurposed to help us with our training needs. She said this on March 13th, 2019, at a forum at the University of Chicago. So point to both of our guests. Clap up for them in the comment section.
And for bonus points, the same day that she made that comment, Rahm Emanuel introduced an ordinance for CPD to rent out vacant schools on the exact same day. So it's kind of both.
Look, our guest got receipts from a year ago. We inviting the right motherfuckers on. I'm just saying. They got receipts from a year ago. So I don't know how to score that because Benji added some extra garnish on that. Question number 2. Who did it? Under this mayor, Chicago witnessed its longest CDU strike since 1987.
Lori.
I think that was Lori.
Yeah.
Point goes to Amara because she ain't had to think about it. She just got it. It was Lori. Point goes to Amara. So Chicago teachers have gone on strike 9 times since the CTU was formed in 1937, not including a 2015 standoff in which the city and the CTU struck a deal to keep working minutes before a deadline to strike. But it was under Lori that the strike occurred for 14 days and had 9 arrests. So it's kind of tied. I'll say. Benji had extra credit on one, but then Amara just came with
the other one.
Yeah. She didn't think about it. Question 3: Who did it? People waged a 34-day hunger strike under this mayor to save a neighborhood school.
Rahm.
Yeah, we know that was from Yolanda Perdomo at WBZ. And I quote, on August 17th, a group of 12 parents and school activists began a liquids-only diet to protest what they said is the destruction of neighborhood schools, especially in African-American neighborhoods, and the privatization of public education. They also took their protest to the CPS headquarters, City Hall, President Obama's home in Kenwood, the U.S. Education Secretary and former CPS CEO Arne Duncan, and they also had a town hall budget meeting in which their protests forced Rahm Emanuel to be risked from the stage. I was there for that shit. He ran out that building. Question 4. Who did it? In 2002, this mayor was appointed chief administrator of the Chicago Police Department of Professional Standards, Office of Professional Standards. During their time there, they ruled that Officer Phyllis Klinkskalis, I think that's her name is pronounced, shot and killed unarmed 17-year-old Robert Washington. She ruled that was justified. I just gave y'all.
Lori.
Lori.
That was only Lori. That is Lori is a cop. So in June 2000, 17-year-old Robert Washington was shot and killed by an off-duty Chicago police officer whom he tried to carjack in Inglewood. The case was eventually ruled justified by Lightfoot, who was head of the Office of Professional Standards at the time, but the OPS investigator ruled it being unjustified. So she contradicted the report from the investigator. She made her own decision. There was a mark from a gun barrel with suit and powder on the back of Robert Washington's head in the autopsy report. So it indicated like he was shot execution style. Question number 5. Who did it? This mayor sold 19 acres of Jackson Park to the Obama Foundation for $10. Obama presidential center. Who did it?
We say Rom.
Rom all day. You know, him and Barack go way back. That's his main man, you know. They rugrats. That's Tommy and Chucky. You feel me? Like they go back.
That's right.
So Obama got Jackson Park for the low. The Rahm Emanuel administration still a deal that gave the Obama Foundation 19.3 acres of Jackson Park over the course of 99 years for a measly $10. $10. I guess the city really wants that presidential center, but groups such as COCO are fighting for a CBA, community benefits agreement. We definitely support them in the struggle for that. So I don't know who won. There are no losers. You know, we're anti-capitalist. We don't compete.
Yeah.
I feel like we was a team. I feel like we was very like on it together.
Yes, I agree.
And that's what we're about. We're about building and bonding. So give a round of applause in our comments for Amara and Benji for winning absolutely nothing, but you're now more informed.
Nice. Let's give it up for Amara and Benji. And y'all, can we bring up Fernando Delgado Square so we can show our lovely audience what Fernando has been working on throughout the show so far?
They looked really sexy with their like dark silhouettes. You know what I'm saying? Both of them have like, you know, like mood lighting.
So wait, we can check out, this is Fernando Square. Fernando, can you show us what you've been, show our audience what you've been drawing in the memes that are already circulating throughout Twitter and Facebook and Instagram? So here's one of them. Can you show us some of the other ones you've been doing during this time?
There's a lot of them going up on Twitter. If you go on hashtag Bring the Light In, we got this one with Lori Lightfoot. She got a little friendship bracelet that says Lightfoot loves Trump. Some of you guys might remember her at the Pride Parade. She got, you know, LGBTQ plus in the background, but, you know, she's over here waving her police flag. This is my favorite one. You can see in the corner here, you got like the Juneteenth calendar in the trash, Black Lives Matter, deep on the police. Completely, she's disregarding all of that. And here you have her showing her love and affection for the Christopher Columbus statue, which is still up, by the way, which is not racist, according to her. We're going to keep that in Chicago.
No, your Scooby meme was racist, though, right? And I just
completely racist. I was out of line for that one. We got her driving a tractor here. You can see Little Village in the back. Bunch of smoke here. There are a few of them that you can see, and a lot of them are on Twitter right now. If you go on the hashtag Bring in the Light, we got a bunch of angry protesters. Lori running to the police station, kind of Monopoly style here. You got a little fedora, little money bag here. These are, you know, trying to bring in the light. You know, we got the north side, south side. She's over here with the white people, but you know, we got our brown and black people on the bottom, south side, just polluted and, you know, with all their decisions and stuff. This is also one of my favorite ones.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah. Ram 2.0. We got new and improved. You got, you know, kind of like robot style Lori. Kind of like a little advertisement here.
She's the upgrade of neoliberal leadership right here going on. So let's give it up for Fernando Delgado, everyone. You can go ahead and check out the illustrations that Fernando has been doing throughout the show on Twitter. You can look up our hashtags Bringing the Light. You can also look up our hashtag Lori Lightfoot. It is already trending on Twitter, so please go and check it out. And let's keep on moving. I'm going to go ahead and draw the next hat. How's everyone feeling in our crowd? Give me some thumbs up if you're feeling good. Nice. We have about time for one or two more categories and our closing game. So we got Nisa is picking our next category and and we'll start us off. All right. So can we bring up the Yao?
Bring in the dictator.
Let's hear it. So along the campaign trail, Lightfoot positioned herself as a benevolent leader capable of collaboration and open to criticism and committed to equity and human treatment of Chicago's underserved Black and Brown communities. But has she embodied these principles, or was it all a facade? How has she managed dissent in City Hall and on the streets? What has been her approach to social problems? What do you think, Nisa?
Okay, so I would like to start by saying that yes, of course, all of her things that she said was fraud because she's a politician and that's what they do, they're fraud. But I want to start also by saying, of course, because she was brought in, like Ron literally brought her in to do a cover-up. So there's most of your intention right there. There can't be any much more than that. And also, I think that it's evident that she did not come in to, help Black and Brown folks, obviously because she's the mayor, but in addition, because she does have a position with police, she has a friendship, she has alliance there, and to think anything less is what she wanted. And that was her campaign strategy. And it was a lie, but it was supposed to be a lie, so.
Nice. I love
she did a good job with what she was supposed to do, though, by tricking people and making people think that, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, I'm Auntie Lori, But it's that's what she's supposed to do to sell what she's supposed to be selling. But of course, like any other lawyer, she's not here for Black and Brown folks.
Nice. Who else wants to chime in on this one?
Oh, I got to talk about. I have to talk about how she ran on. I'm finna reopen the mental health clinics that Ron closed. Everybody gonna get mental health. Oh, she ran on Black people. Y'all got it's well deserved, but I'm gonna get y'all these mental health clinics.
Yeah, I mean, I think one.
Is she about to opening?
You broke up a little bit.
I recall her fighting against them being open.
Right.
I recall her and I recall her specifically sign the thing in front of hundreds of people, saying, I'm finna reopen, fully fund, set up to win, public mental health clinics. What she do? She gave a little, she threw about as much, I'm broke, I don't got a lot of money. So she threw about as much as I throw in a strip club as public mental health. And it didn't get public, it was private. She threw it all at private mental health.
Yeah.
So,
I think one of the things that, I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish it.
No, you go.
Okay. I thought you were finishing on them. I think one of the things that sticks out to me is that her response to everything is cops, right? It's 4th of July, we need cops on the street, right? It's, there's Black and Brown kids in schools, we need cops out there. There's protests, we need cops. I mean, I think one of the things that is so dictatorial about her is that her only mode of operating or responding to social problems is using the police. And that is not about social progress, that's about social control. Right. Even when you think about the violence that happened at the CTA, there were 2 incidences. One of them was, a woman that had a history of mental illness that stabbed a platform musician because she said that he was driving me crazy. I couldn't get the sound out of my head. I think is something similar to the quote. The other one was Patrick Walden, a 31-year-old Black man from Chicago that had been in and out of jail for 15 years. So since he was a teen. And you think about the fact that This is a mayor that ran on the promise to reopen mental health clinics. This is a mayor that ran on the promise to give jobs and more resources to Black boys and to the Black community, where we know 45% of all young Black men are out of job or out of schools. And imagine if she kept those promises, right? Like how those events that happened could have been prevented, right? Or even the future of those type of events could have been prevented. And so it's like, it just says something that her problem is operating like a dictator. She will control problems. You know, she will try and do social control and try and disappear problems by disappearing people and trying to control people and use that as a facade for social progress. And all I know is that from now on, for the rest of my life, I'm gonna bring Tree around me just so she can be making those faces when I'm making some points right now. Anyone else?
You need a band too. My face is in a band.
But to your point, we have to start looking at mayors as like, I believe we have to start looking at mayors as dictators. If we are radical in our politics, like we say we are. Because to me, there's just many presidents. As the president prioritizes like the military in their budget, mostly all the funding in America, like it cites into like the military. It's the same with mayors and the police budget. And so like, even if like Lori is campaigning to reopen mental health clinics, we know for damn sure that's not a priority. I haven't seen a damn press conference about mental health and the fact that there are people out of work during COVID-19, the pandemic. People are scared. They say domestic violence is on the rise. Yesterday I read a story about a man punching a toddler to death. And it's like, that is not treated with like care or concern. Like a dictator, it's like, let's lock up these social problems. Let's like silence and like invisibilize like the harm that is being caused in our communities because of failure of policy. Like if you had a rent control or like even like a rent or mortgage freeze during COVID-19, if you supplied everyone with food, if you supplied everyone with housing, like people would be in a better mental state. It's like, to me, it's like, it's simple as hell. Like,
but it's like, we know that that's not what they want for us, because if that's what they wanted for us, then they would open up the mental health facilities and take the police off of the streets. But they actually do the opposite, which is closing down the facilities and putting more police on the street, because we know that a lot of people that are being criminalized are also a lot of people that were kicked out of mental health facilities and now have no better options and are now homeless. And that's Black and brown youth. And that's like that's a large population of people. We have a lot of homeless people in the West. And a lot of that happened is when they closed down all those mental health facilities. That was Reagan.
I think we also have to pay attention to how things are framed, how this mayor and administration frames things, because that's where a lot of the insidious nature of the administration comes through. I can recall during the teachers' strike, what really stuck out to me was the demonization of teachers teaching in the entire profession under the guise of taking a tough stance during the strike. There are a lot of things that were said that I think are harmful to the teaching profession and to teachers long after the strike ended. And even no matter what the outcome of the strike was, when you start feeding into this notion of teachers being greedy or teachers being overpaid, and even using false talking points to put teachers in a particular narrative so that you could then undermine the legitimate things that they were pushing for, that's very insidious, because it's a play that's designed to get the public on your side using false information and using misperception. The other is demonizing disagreement, demonize those who you disagree with. So when aldermen did not vote in favor of the budget, all of a sudden there's a website created to paint them as they are not in favor of the city being fiscally solvent, or some other language that's designed to turn the public against disagreement or those who may not share the same views. And that's very insidious, because what it does is it's subtly designed to play on the public's lack of understanding or lack of knowledge on particular issues, so as to turn them against folks who are actually fighting in our best interests. And that, I've seen that play out so many times with this administration, to where you're able to frame an issue in a certain way to undermine folks who have legitimate advocacy pushes, legitimate causes, even calling defund the police, oh, it's a cute hashtag. That's a very specific way of minimizing, trying to delegitimize, folks, and also plays into this notion that folks who are advocates, organizers, activists, as unintelligent, as not having been thoughtful about the things that we are pushing for, as though we lack expertise. And anyone in a leadership position who's willing to do that is really showing you that they are very insidious and actually don't have the interests that they claim at heart.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, we were going to wrap up this one. We're going to do one more round, and that is Amara. You can keep it up there. And yeah, let's bring up the board. Amara gets to pick our next topic. Here we go, Amara. We got bring in the queer progressive left, we got bring in the recovery left, and we got bring in the displacer left.
Bring in the displacer.
Let's bring it up. Let's see that question. All right. Demolitions, construction, and real estate development continued during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now that corporate landlords are evicting poor and working people due to the absence of housing relief during the stay-at-home order, it opens the door for real estate vultures to double down on neighborhoods already undergoing displacement. Is gentrification Lightfoot's idea of recovery for poor communities? Kick it off, Amara.
I think that this is the status quo. I don't think that on this front anything has changed from a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I think what we have seen is a lot of empty rhetoric that has no substantive follow through in terms of policies that are put in place to really address gentrification and address displacement as an issue in Chicago. Because if we were going to do that, you would see a drastic difference in the city's economic strategy. You would see a drastic difference in terms of how we advocate for folks who are about to lose their homes or about to get evicted. The saddest thing to me is that this is probably the only time in history that we would have the national public cover to really do drastic things differently, especially as it relates to how we invest in communities, how we stop gentrification, how we actually move in a different way than we've moved for the last several decades. And you have the public cover to do it because we're in uncharted territory now. Instead, what we've seen is digging in the heels. I think that's the phrase, digging the heels in, and actually a constriction of imagination to where we're not seeing the kind of aggressive advocacy for renters. We're not seeing an aggressive strategy for targeted economic investment in communities that have been disinvested for decades. We're seeing a lot of words. We're seeing still planning. Those of us who worked in economic development, the plans have been going on for the last 50, 60 years. What are we specifically doing differently? That's what we haven't seen. And I think that we're going to continue to see more families displaced. The population of Black Chicago in particular is continuing to decline. But what I want to emphasize is that it's not by happenstance. It's actually the result of very intentional public policies that are designed to do just that.
Yeah. If I can chime in very quickly on because I think the mayor made some really problematic remarks about Pilsen, but she was very specific, and she was speaking to developers in New York, developers that they are trying to grab land here in Pilsen today. 10 years ago, Pilsen was a community that nobody wanted to be in. I mean, these are very problematic comments and this notion that by gentrifying communities, displacing communities, that somehow we're going to address violence, we're going to make quote unquote communities better. We have beautiful communities, and we have the opportunity for us to bring resources, but again, the same forces, the same corporations, the same developers that Mayor Lightfoot continues, and the ones that she's trying to, in a way, lure to communities like Pilsen, where, or in the South Side, we see Woodlawn, another example, right? So again, we do have communities where we're asking is about being, we want a self-determination, right? We have beautiful communities, we have plans, we have policies in place where we're demanding being part of. We have, the projects like the 78 with the recycling billions of dollars of Lincoln Yards of public dollars to subsidize luxury development. At the same time, we have opportunities here in our communities to bring affordable housing, to make sure that we don't talk about crumbs. We want to make sure that we have commercial spaces, Black-owned businesses, Latinx-owned businesses. We have the opportunity. We have tax dollars that's supposed to be doing that in quote-unquote communities that are in need. But however, this money, these resources, and again, there was recently an announcement that administration, after the promise, another yet empty promise about TIF reform. TIF continued to go towards corporations and developers under our watch. So we have the opportunity today to push back to make sure that we demand not only, the little things that they want to do that don't even enforce, local hiring. What kind of local hiring? Talk about violence. We know that we can address violence, give communities opportunity, jobs, make sure that we have schools where we have quality education, where we have music, we have arts, with so many opportunities here. We have billions of dollars that go instead to create luxury housing, to give the rich even more money, where schools are defunded, where most cities in the country, most cities are already taking police out of schools. We still force $33 million back into the schools. We still give developers allow so that they don't do local hiring, when they don't do the affordable housing set aside. And on top of that, we pay them to these places. And then we have a mayor that goes to New York to make sure that they comfort them to say, yes, come and invest in displaced people from our community. Come on, this is an opportunity for us to organize and bring back. I think there's a platform that I want us. I know that the teachers union and many people are supporting a quality of life for Black neighborhoods, for every neighborhood. We have the opportunity to make sure that we are a blueprint of what we can do to battle segregation and structural racism. But it's not with cute memes and empty promises. It's going to be with actions. It's going to be with policies. Every policy that we have put forward, just cause for evictions, development for all, every CPAC, you name it, the mayor knocks it down. Where is the progressiveness in this administration? So again, I believe wholeheartedly in the progress in the grassroots movement to push us forward, but not this administration.
And Maya, go on ahead.
Wait. No.
I think that Amara made a good point about how there's this opportunity to really take some political risks right now and push for truly progressive policies that we're just not seeing this mayor take. I think the pattern that sort of has emerged ever since her campaign has been that, she kind of uses this progressive rhetoric, wants to get the brownie points for talking about issues that are kind of on the progressive agenda, but never quite really taking the risk to make a commitment or to actually create a different policy. She had been sort of milquetoast and ambivalent about her position on lifting the statewide ban on rent control all throughout the campaign, and she's continued to not support that, even though it actually literally would not commit her to anything to say, yes, I want to lift the ban on rent control that's statewide. All she would be saying is, okay, I would like Chicago to have the opportunity to decide about this policy for ourselves and not have people in Springfield telling us that we can't even have a conversation about it. When it comes to just cause eviction, she's been, on the one hand, she's created this housing department and staffed it with some people who are pretty well respected and have a track record of pushing for progressive change when it comes to housing policy. But on the other hand, they're kind of hamstrung in terms of what they can get done. And there's this just cause eviction ordinance. There's been conversations happening about it for a couple of years now, that when it came down to the wire of actually proposing it, suddenly her people were out of the picture. And what was introduced instead was this kind of very, again, milquetoast, middle of the way, much more soft version where all tenants would be a longer notice period to move out. And it would really prevent people from displacing folks if they wanted to renovate their properties and lease them out at higher rates. So that's the pattern that's emerged from her administration so far.
Nice. We are at time. We are at 9:04, so we're not going to unfortunately get to our last category. We do have one more game to play before we close out. It is the Wheel of Misfortune. Charles, who's playing that one? Charles or Jackie? Oh, they are muted. So Wheel of Misfortune is
the Wheel of Misfortune.
Yep.
I believe that's Louder and Nisa.
Laura and Nisa are closing us out in the last game. Let's bring up so this game is really simple, Laura and Nisa. It's like Wheel of Fortune, but not. What's going to happen is a puzzle will be displayed, and every second, letters will be revealed in the puzzle. The first one to figure out the puzzle and guess it wins. We'll play 3 quick rounds, and then we'll move on to our closing. How is everyone? Everyone can't see you all in our gallery view, but I can see you all in the Zoom room. How are you all holding up? Good? Nice. All right, let's bring up the game, y'all. All right. And the first one to guess wins a point, and we'll go. Let's see them.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Let's see who got that one.
Nisa got that.
Go Nisa. Let's can we reveal the answer?
That was not Nisa, that was me.
That was not Nisa, right?
That was Amika? Oh.
Yeah.
Although
Amika
Nisa
got
and I
it.
do sound alike.
Amika's like, I'm gonna play this game. Lori of Chicago. Pete Buttigieg, I know that's Stacy's favorite candidate, if I remember correctly.
That's my hometown. I am actually in Spokane in this moment. That is too funny.
Nice. All right, let's giving up the second round, and let's see who can guess this one. We ready, round? Are we ready, y'all, for round 2?
There's another one. Okay.
We got 3 rounds.
I'm like Nisa's assistant. There's a dynamic here. I'm helping.
Yes.
We good for round 2, y'all?
Yeah, I'm just getting it up right now. I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that the screen share again, because for some reason when I do it, it doesn't show up in the live feed. So
okay.
So yeah, so you might have to do a full screen on my screen, and then you should be able to see it.
Okay, so if you guys go hover over Yao's screen, and you should be able to do a full screen on it. All right, let's get started though.
Okay, okay, here we go.
I couldn't see it.
I can see it.
Here,
I don't
Lightfoot boy.
Lightfoot lie.
Lightfoot lie.
Lightfoot lie.
Lightfoot let Ricky.
Lightfoot let Ricky's killer go.
Hey, Rakia boy, Lightfoot let Rakia Boyd's killer go. Of course, we are referring to the Stop Lightfoot campaign that drew out the truth that Lightfoot even stalled hearings for Dante Servant to allow him to quit on his own terms. And so that is that one. Okay, we have one more round that we're going to close out on. Let's bring up the third round.
Nisa is winning.
Oh, wait, that's the last one. Let's bring up the
Nisa is winning by teamwork.
Nisa is winning by teamwork, but Nisa's winning.
We got the third one, y'all?
Yeah. Okay,
all right.
Here we go.
Oh, shit. Dissertation.
All right, let's get started.
Oh my God.
This is the funniest one. This This is the funniest one.
Laura, you were it's all on you now.
Can't even look at one letter at a time. Lori Lightfoot. Shut the no. What is it? Someone tell.
Is this an English to Spanish?
Hold on, wait a minute.
It's in English.
Oh,
too close.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's
to
real
rent
right there.
To rent a condo. Where? You should just do letter by letter.
The bathroom mirror.
Cabrini Green used to be.
Woo! Let's go.
Where Cabrini Green used to
And say in the bathroom mirror.
Oh, you have an extra letter over there.
Candyman,
right.
5 times.
I made the candy man find you.
This is a deep Chicago cut.
Hilarious.
Nisa
Oh my God! Yes. Oh my God! This is awesome.
The answer. Someone tell Lori Lightfoot to go rent a condo where Cabrini Green used to be and go into the bathroom mirror and say Candyman 5 times.
The best one of them all.
And there we go. We're done with that game. Let's give it up for Laura and Nisa and Amika. And by Nisa, I mean Nisa Amika. They're like Bennifer.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork does make the dream work. So we reached our closing. I'm gonna let Charles close us out, but before I say that, I want to give a personal thank you to Nisa, to Laura, to Stacy, to Amara, to Fernando, to Amika, to Kristiana, to Byron, to Billy, to Maya, and to Jackie and Charles and and Benji down there. We had hundreds of people tuned in tonight, and there are hundreds and hundreds of tweets right now that are going off that are educating audience in Chicago on the issues that we were talking about here on this call. And I can't emphasize how important it is for us to get these perspectives out there while Lori Lightfoot tries to hide under memes and performances of tough talk to Trump, that we let people know who she really is. Charles, take it away.
So if we didn't get to it, oh the fuck well. Oh well. That's the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining our Bring In the Light ceremony. I hope you had a ball celebrating Lori Lightfoot with us. We want to thank all of our special guests for celebrating our illustrious mayor. We're not going to leave you without any actionable items because we need to do some shit. So here's our call to action. Number 1, retweet our shit, share our shit. Our Lightfoot Brigade has been heavy at work, so we share and tag folks about these statuses, these tweets that are going out about Lori Lightfoot. Also, please check out the Black Abolitionist Network. They have a petition to support defunding the Chicago Police Department. They're doing important work. They recently held trainings. Put Black Abolitionist Network in your Facebook search bar. They should come up, tap in. Number 3, call and write your alderman to defund TPD. It's that simple. Especially if your alderman is not one of the progressives in city council. It's very important that these aldermen see that people are constantly getting on their nerves about defunding CPD for a brighter future for our youth and just our city in general. Also, number 4, message to Hoodoisie if you're interested in getting involved in any campaigns. We're connected to a lot of organizations. We'll siphon you off to where you're interested in. So please contact us. And those are our actionable items for tonight.
There's one more. So even though the Chicago Board of Education voted to maintain their contract with CPD, the contract is set to expire in August, right? And the school board has to vote to renew it. So all of that organizing that we've seen by CPS students and activists, that's not going anywhere. This issue is gonna come up again over the summer. and we need to learn what that contract looks like. Hit up your school's LSC to gauge if it's truly representative and active, right? And who knows, maybe people will also show up to board president Miguel del Valle's house again. So that's it.
I'm still laughing when we had Jackie giving us the updates, and she was like, Miguel del Valle, a Puerto Rican man. She was like, I can't believe he voted against Cool. I just want to say this was an experiment. So I thank all of our guests for, going along with it and seeing how our game show meets roast meets roundtable will play out. We definitely learned a lot, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I also want to shout out Fernando and tell you all to check out our stuff. I also just want to say thank you one more time, because the Hoodoisie, it's a community, and it matters that it's a community that's made by the people that participate in it, like the guests that have, everyone that's been on the Zoom has been on this show more than once, and we couldn't make show and offer the people what we offer without you all. So thank you so much. And I also want to thank, of course, everyone that tunes in, that sends us messages and sends us loves and lets us know that we're doing our job by getting you all educated and giving you some tools to keep going, and to look out for some of the stuff that we'll be offering next month, which includes a creative and digital activism and organizing teach-in in August, as well as some other kind of antics like this one. Thank you so much, and good night to everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, and again, thank you all for being with us. For guests on our show, get us your invoices and all that stuff. Love you all so much. Have a good night, everyone. See you next week. We'll be back with our regular issue, with the regular episode of Pandemic Issues. Good night.